financial conditions could dampen domestic demand. Nonetheless, economic growth for financial year 2023/24 is forecast at approximately 6%, and the subsequent years are expected to hover between 5.5% and 6.5%. That both fiscal and monetary policy have been tight. If you look at the data released by UBOS and look at the aggregate demand composition in the 2 quarters of 2023-2024, you see that, for example, government consumption contracted by around 7% in the 2 quarters. So that one contributed to the aggregate demand tightening. Remember that 20% of GDP is government expenditure. The second is obviously tight monetary policy, which we also agree that tightness spills over into private sector credit extension.
The central bank also highlighted some of the impacts of the Kenyan shilling appreciation to Uganda and also commented on the proposed tax increment for agent banking.
It's going to make the Kenyan goods more expensive, because you recall that sometime in January, Ugandans were paying about 22-23 Uganda shillings for 1 Kenya shilling. And last week, at the last check of it, it was about 29 Uganda shillings to 1 Kenya shilling. So certainly it's going to make imports from Kenya more expensive. Now, Kenyans, of course, will see that it will be much more cheaper to import from Uganda, because now they are paying fewer Kenya shillings to get the same amount of Uganda shillings. Really, as a central bank, we like a situation where cash is kept in the ecosystem. By that I mean to say, once you get cash transferred to you, it would be better if you don't withdraw it, because if that cash remains in the ecosystem, then it means that the demand for physical currency is reduced. So to the extent that the tax can increase the retention of that value in the ecosystem, I think it serves well for Bank of Uganda.
Short-term projections indicate inflation may rise to between 5.5% to 6% within 12 months ahead, with a return to the medium-term target anticipated in the second half of 2025. Government targets a collection of about 1.9 trillion shillings in the proposed tax bills in order to boost the domestic revenue mobilization. The tax bills have been presented by the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to the Parliamentary Committee on Finance for scrutiny.
Government seeks to alter the existing tax framework as part of the strategies to boost the medium-term domestic revenue mobilization. The new tax proposals include amendment of the income tax, stamp duty, excise duty, tax procedures, and the value-added tax. The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development presented the tax bills to the Committee of Finance in Parliament.
We propose to amend in all tax bills to remove reference to hospital and maintain specialized medical facilities.
The ministry officials first faced hard time to explain the due diligence justifying the impact assessments of the proposed tax reforms.
Regarding the explanatory notes, not explanatory, the research on tax bills that are being laid, and it has been said here that they have one and the minister confirms that he's going to lay after. Can we confirm that they are all available and be laid at after your presentation of the bills?
Minister of State for Finance, General Duties Henry Musasizi told the MPs how the move fosters economic growth.
To, number one, balance the need for additional revenue with the impact on consumers and businesses. To ensure stability and predictability of the tax system.
Minister Musasizi told the committee government will charge 100 shillings tax per litre of both petroleum and diesel and 300 shillings on kerosene to boost revenue up to the tune of 200 0.92 billion.
The 300 kerosene is used for many purposes, but the main purpose is it can easily be mixed with the diesel, what we call adulteration.
I would have expected in this year the ministry to come up with measures, even if they are not revenue generating, but measures that can actually push growth so that URA can collect money in future.
The Committee on Finance looked at the government's proposals to slap 0.5% on withdrawals through agent banking, 5% charges on non-business assets like land and rental properties, and unextended tax on cement products like adhesive. Minister Musasizi says beneficiaries of agent banking need to face the same tax order as incurred by the mobile money users. The tax on cement products like lime and adhesive is projected to hike building costs. Anyone intending to sell off property, say land and rentals, will be charged 5% of the gains.
Land, we are interested in the gain because some individuals are not in the business of buying and selling land. Therefore, they cannot account for it as business income. They are individuals, me and you, who owns a piece of land and I sell it at a gain. This is not a new tax because government already imposes excise duty of 500 per 50 kilogram of cement, and URA has been collecting this tax. Therefore, the intention of this proposal is to create fairness in the regime by imposing tax on similar products such as adhesives, grouts, and lime.
The proposed tax bills will generate at least 1.9 trillion if Parliament agrees with the government proposals. This comes at a time when a section of the community is criticizing government for inadequately sensitizing the masses on the tax reforms and introduction of the digital solutions.
How are you going to grow?
Daniel Mugoya, Gloria Gitabinji, UBC News.
The protest by Cala Traders has put government on the spot to find amicable solutions to address the traders' taxation concerns. We have an expert opinion from Dr. Fred Muhumuza, a principal economist and academician.
Dr. Fred Muhumuza has shared his thoughts on the Cala Traders' repulse of URA's IFRI system, citing a lack of sufficient education on who should be eligible to utilize the solution.
Initially, IFRIS was only supposed to apply to VAT registered companies. And for the same reasons we have said, because at 150 million, you really may be sizable enough to afford the data. You are sizable enough already as a company, you have more than one employees. You possibly already have the gadgets that are required, the computers and the rest of that, plus the knowledge. 150 million used to be something sizable. But now there is also a provision that even those below who are not VAT registered, and you're beginning to get complaints coming from that angle as well.
Although paying taxes is a responsibility for all citizens, Uganda's tax base remains limited, and government needs to focus on empowering citizens to become effective consumers.
If you get into the British system and most of the developed world, they have what we call unemployment benefits. You're 18 years, you finish university, you have no job, we will pay you. It's not that they love you, Mark. No, they actually love the manufacturer. Because once Mark receives his money, you're going to go to theater, you're going to go to that supermarket, you're going to pay your rent. Each of these is taxable. So you realize that the money I gave to you, 300,000, I'm going to get back 170 of that. But not only am I getting the 170 in form of taxes, I have stimulated the demand for the very businesses that run the economy.
During a plenary session, the leader of opposition, Joel Senyonyi, informed the House on the challenges facing the business community regarding tax compliance.
Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, one of the cardinal principles in taxation is that you have got to make it easy for people to pay taxes. It's got to be easy and clear. Because once it is not easy, then people are going to evade the taxes. Because they are saying, I am giving my money, but number two, I am struggling with your system.
Honorable Law,
Yes.
maybe just for your information, there's going to be a meeting between URA, the traders, and His Excellency to resolve those issues. They need to be listened to.
Currently, most traders operating in a shop and have a turnover of over 150 million shillings ought to pay an array of financial obligations like income tax, value-added tax of 18% per unit sold, import duty if one imports their goods, KCCA fees and licenses, pay as you earn for his employees, rent, garbage collection and electricity.
So for me, the ultimate thing of increasing tax revenue is going to be how do we secure businesses, how do we secure households? Because those two will drive the economy. An economy that grows at 6% cannot raise the tax to GDP beyond the 14%.
The Electronic Fiscal Receipting and Invoicing System, IFRIS, was officially launched by the Uganda Revenue Authority. It was introduced as part of government's efforts to modernize tax administration and improve revenue collection processes in Uganda. Wadulo Mark Arnold, UBC News, in Kampala.
The Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa, commissioned Uganda Breweries Limited, Uganda shillings 37 billion biomass plant. The new plant marks a significant milestone in the organization's commitment to reducing carbon emissions by 92%. Let's have a look. The biomass project emulates economic activities and promotes use of clean energy to reduce greenhouse gas emission from 22% to 24.7%, hence mitigating the impact of climate change.
And I want to encourage you to continue making sure that we have a self-sustainable industry, because that's where we are moving. Congratulations. I've been taken around and I was able to see the products, how they are made, the cleanliness, the hygiene, and all that is quite impressive. The place is clean.
Besides representing a substantial and excellent decarbonizing journey, the multi-billion shillings plant aligns with Uganda's National Development Plan and Vision 2040, which prioritizes sustainable development and environmental conservation.
As I look at what we've just commissioned today, the biomass facility, it's one that, as Diageo, we are really proud of. Because as Diageo, we've been committed to doing business the right way, for many years. I always say, before ESG became fashionable, Diageo was doing what was right for communities in terms of giving back water and running the businesses in the right way. Over the last number of years, not just in Uganda, but across Africa, Diageo has invested $216 million in terms of biomass plants in the likes of East Africa, in terms of water replenishment, reuse of water.
Today, the launch of this biomass plant, we have come closer to realizing our net zero carbon goal, with the plant reducing our carbon emissions by a massive 92%. 8,000 tons of CO2 per year. Honorable Minister, the biomass works to reduce carbon emissions by replacing fuel oil systems we used in the past to produce steam and instead burning organic waste material such as burgers, wood chip, and sawdust.
The biomass plant is within the organization's promise to accelerate to a low-carbon world in which it's committed to only using renewable energy and become a net zero carbon operator by 2030.
Especially where you are moving green. There must be a window of incentivizing such industries that are trying to clean off, that are trying to make sure that they reduce the CO2 emission. We must tap into the climate fund, for example. There is that fund. How can we make sure that we utilize the opportunity to make sure that the numbers don't dwindle?
We don't only do these beautiful drinks, which are the best in town, but we also are at the center and the front of innovation. So The biomass is one of its kind in Uganda, and I think we are probably number 3 in Africa.
Companies with high emissions are urged to make investments of such a scale to reduce carbon emissions in the production processes. Sigoa for UBC Business.
In a significant move towards sustainable development, the European Union has allocated a 40 million grant to Uganda. During his recent visit to Uganda, EU Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries, Vinicius Sinkevicius, and President Yoweri Museveni unveiled the EU Forestry Program.
This program aims to combat deforestation, promote reforestation and ensure fair benefit sharing, bolstering Uganda's efforts to protect its ecosystems.
Forest reserves, there was the idea of sustainably harvesting the trees, which meant you could cut, but you plant, but you like that. So I said no. For the forests in the crucial ecosystems, they are now national parks.
Recognizing the importance of Uganda's coffee industry, Commissioner Vinicius Sinkevicius emphasized support for coffee farmers to mitigate the impact of upcoming EU regulations on deforestation-free products.
Uganda will be affected mainly by coffee, as being one of the large coffee exporters, and therefore our aim is to ensure a smooth transition, that this legislation deepen our ties and understanding, and ensures that Uganda can successfully export coffee which would be produced sustainably.
Under this program, European Union is committed to assisting coffee farmers navigate the EU's stringent regulations set to take effect in 2025.
It's first of all a reply ensuring that EU's consumption pattern does not drive forest losses and forest degradation around the globe. Because it's very difficult for me or other EU leaders make pledges regards the deforestation while we know that we are part of the issue. Our consumption pattern is part of the issue. So therefore, this legislation and 7 commodities that are included in legislation is our answer, ensuring that these, after impact assessment, these are the key commodities that they drive deforestation and forest losses around the globe. As I said, it was not specified to specific region or specific area. It equally applied to EU producers as it's equally applied to countries outside the EU, and all of them will have to comply with that.
The EU regulation mandates that coffee, rubber, cocoa and other products must be sourced responsibly without contributing to deforestation. However, for many small-scale farmers, compliance with these regulations poses a significant challenge due to limited resources and expertise.
Most importantly, what is needed is farmers' geolocation data. So the farmer, when he brings harvest to the corporation, to the operator, it's still attributed to his farm, so where his land is. And that geolocation data should be within the labeled and going into the system with the harvest that the farmer brings. This data should be available to operators so that they provide it to implementing authorities within member states. Member states in EU, they were, because it will be entering, the products will be entering through different member states, so they will be the ones responsible for implementation. They're also doing their preparation work.
Despite the challenges, the EU's grant will bolster Uganda's efforts to conserve biodiversity, manage forests sustainably, and ensure fair practices. With this investment, the EU and Uganda are forging a path towards environmental preservation and economic prosperity, safeguarding both forests and livelihoods. Maureen Babidie and Dennis Sigoa for Business Roundup.
On the continental scene, in a bid to alleviate the country's overdependence on imports, which has contributed to the devaluation of the naira against the US dollar, the Nigerian government is championing the consumption of domestically produced goods. We have more details from CGTN.
Kim Mang, a fashion designer in Nigeria's city of Jos, is putting finishing touches to a pair of suits.
I know how much quality I put out there, and I mean, not to toot my horn, but I have probably better quality than some international brands. Patronage has been good. It can be better.
Many people in the country are patronizing the local brands.
Nigerian products are good. Why I like them, they are quality, they are good stuff, good quality, good products. I like them because they are cheap.
I feel they are not quality enough for me, yeah. So I prefer ordering from outside the country, countries like China and Italy.
Nigeria's currency, the naira, has been experiencing a steady appreciation against the US dollar, reaching 1,382 to $1 in the official market in March. That's after it traded at 1,900 to $1 in the block market in February. The government says increased patronage for products made in the country is key towards consolidation and is encouraging people to do so. Business analysts are excited at the government's push, but say sustaining the campaign and tackling bottlenecks to local production is important.
Whether I'm using the machine, I'm using a pressing iron, I cannot work in the dark, as a matter of fact. If I have to work at night, I need electricity to do all of that. And you know, running on generator these days is crazy because the cost of fuel or diesel is expensive right now. You go to the bank can't help you. They give you an exorbitant rate and they tell you you're paying not like at a single digit, no. The rates are so high that you cannot even ask the bank for loan.
The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria says over 700 companies shut down operations in the country last year alone, while about 300 became distressed due to challenges. The government says it has now earmarked $58 million to support 100,000 startups and micro, small and medium enterprises at single-digit interest rates. President Bola Tinubu has also signed into law a legislation that overhauls its power sector and allows state governments to license and regulate electricity markets as part of measures to guarantee 24-hour power supply in the country. Local businesses are encouraged by these measures to produce more, to increase local patronage and for export, thereby strengthening the value of the naira. Tassim Akinde, CGTN Jos.
I'd like to call on URA. Yes, you're doing all you can to hit your targets, but these people are saying they are not on the same page with you. This EFRI system, the electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution, they're saying they don't understand it. They're saying it is complicating matters for them. They've got to have smartphones, they've got to have internet, and all of these things. You see, one of the critical canons in tax collection, you've got to make it easy for people to pay taxes. When you make it hard, they will evade the taxes, they will not pay. So we are calling on URA, as much as you can, keep engaging these people, even if it means meeting them every week, because these are your partners, they are stakeholders. Give them attention. The other day I saw there was a meeting. I don't know how often those meetings happen. You can't meet them once in a blue moon and move, and you just want to enforce. Listen to them. They are raising these critical concerns. Address their concerns. That way you'll be on the same page.
Lake Katwe in Kasese district is a customary lake on which salt mining is done. The lake was formed through a volcanic eruption over 10,000 years ago. Local community extracts the rock salt directly. The rocks are then dried and later sold within Uganda and across the region. Check this out in our Sounds of Business. We wrap up the show, but before we do so, we have some words of wisdom. Most of us admire and want to own vehicles. When you make that money and want to buy a car, the first thing that you must consider is its purpose, the second, its capacity, and of course, its fuel consumption. That's all from BRU team for tonight, and thanks for watching. I've been your host, Sigoa.
UBC, inspiring Uganda. This weekend on UBC.